I'm 82 years old. I became a widow, and then everyone disappeared. My children, my friends, they all just faded away. I was alone in a house full of silence. Honestly, I thought that was just how it ended. Let me tell you what happened. It started 3 weeks after Harold's funeral. I was sitting in his armchair, which I never do, staring at the phone. It never rang. The doorbell was silent. The calendar was still on July, the month he died. The quiet was so heavy, it pushed me to call someone. I called my daughter Sarah. It went to voicemail. I left a message about the garden. I called my son David. He answered, but he was distracted. "I'll call you Sunday, Mom. Promise," he said, and hung up. I felt like a ghost. So I called my oldest friend, Margaret. We've known each other for decades. She answered with a cough. "Oh, Eleanor, I'd love to visit, but this cold is dreadful." Her voice sounded fake, and I remembered. She'd started canceling on me even before Harold passed. The disappearing act had already begun. I just hadn't seen it. That hurt. It sent me to the photo albums. I needed proof I'd mattered. The pictures showed my whole world shrinking. Big parties at my 70th birthday. Then just the kids a few years later. The last one was a blurry selfie from Sarah. I was in the corner. I saw a photo of my friend Carol. We stopped writing. I'd been so busy caring for Harold, I let my own life wither away. I felt a deep regret. Then the doorbell rang. It shocked me. It was a delivery boy with groceries I didn't order. A note was inside. "Thought you could use this. Leo, Apton 4B. Leo was the young musician across the hall. I'd only ever nodded at him. That small kindness. It was a lifeline. It gave me a little hope. The next day, I baked a lemon loaf as a thank you. I took it to his apartment. He was surprised, but he invited me in. It was a mess of instruments. He made me tea. He asked, "You live with the violin teacher, right?" So I told him a story about Harold's worst student, who later joined an orchestra. Leo listened, really listened. Then he played a song he was writing. For the first time in months, I felt heard. That gave me a sliver of courage. I went to the library trying to be brave. I thought I might talk to someone, but everyone was in their own world. I felt foolish. As I was leaving, I saw a notice. Reading partners. Share a book with a homebound senior. The irony stung. I was a homebound senior. But I signed up, not as the volunteer, as the person needing to be read to. A student named Maya called me each week. She read adventure stories. After, we'd talk. She told me about her life. I told her about the roses Harold and I grew. It wasn't friendship, not really, but it was a thread to the world. One week she couldn't call. The silence felt worse than before, so I went for a walk. I went to the park and sat on the bench Harold and I always used. An older man was there, feeding ducks. We nodded. He was there the next day, too. "The mallards miss my wife," he said quietly. His name was Arthur. We didn't talk much. We just shared the bench. It was a companionship of parallel loss. One day, he wasn't there. A cold fear hit me. Had he vanished too? But he came back the next day. He'd had a doctor's appointment. My relief was huge. Then I fell. I reached for a teacup and slipped. My hips screamed. I couldn't get up. The phone was too far. I lay there for hours, thinking of everyone. My kids wouldn't know. Would Leo, Maya, or Arthur know I was gone? As it got dark, I got angry. I wasn't ready to disappear. I grabbed Harold's cane and banged it on the radiator. The banging saved me. Leo heard it from across the hall. He called an ambulance. Then he found my phone. He didn't call my children first. He called Arthur. Arthur came right away. In the ambulance, Leo texted Maya. She sent messages of support. This little network, this patchwork quilt of people I just found, held vigil. When the hospital called Sarah, she finally phoned, her voice full of panic. "Mom, why didn't you call me?" I looked at Leo and Arthur there with me. I said softly, "I did, Sarah, months ago." Recovery was slow. My kids visited, full of guilt. Margaret came with apologies, but the steady ones were Leo, Arthur, and Maya's voice on the phone. The house isn't empty now. The silence is different. It's the peaceful space between connections I choose to keep. I learned when you disappear, you have to send up a flare. Bake the loaf, sign the form, sit on the bench. Someone might see it. So if you're feeling alone, you reach out. Make the call. Your person might be waiting, just out of sight. So there I was in the hospital, with Leo holding a cup of water for me, and Arthur folding my sweater. I just told Sarah on the phone that I'd called months ago. There was a long silence on her end. Then she just said, "I'm coming." And she did. She and David both did. They looked scared. Scared of the hospital. Scared of seeing me in that bed. Scared of their own guilt, I think. Their visits were full of loud energy. They brought fancy flowers that needed complicated vases and talked too fast about rearranging my house for safety. It felt like being managed. I appreciated it, and it hurt all at once. Where was this concern 3 months ago? But here's the thing. While they were busy fluffing my pillows and talking to doctors, Leo and Arthur just were there. Leo brought his violin one afternoon and played quietly in the corner of the room, something sweet and simple. A nurse told him to stop, but I saw her smiling as she left. Arthur came every day at 3, like clockwork. He didn't bring flowers. He brought a single newspaper and read me the funny pages, doing the voices. It was the most ridiculous, wonderful thing. He'd do this gruff voice for the dog in the comic strip, and I'd laugh, and my hip would hurt from laughing, but I didn't care. Maya, my reading partner, couldn't visit, but she sent a postcard to the hospital. A picture of a giant redwood tree. On the back she wrote, "Thinking of you, Eleanor. Get strong like this tree." I put it on my bedside table. It meant more than all the cellophane wrapped bouquets. I got to go home after a week. The doctors said I was lucky. Sarah wanted me to go to a rehab place. "It's what people do, Mom," she said. But I dug in my heels. "I want to go to my own home," I told her. I think she was surprised. I was a little surprised too, but I had a reason. My home wasn't just an empty house anymore. People knew me there now. Leo was across the hall. Arthur knew my address. That mattered. So they set me up in the living room with a hospital bed rented for a month. It looked strange and ugly next to Harold's armchair, but it was temporary. The first night back was hard. The dark felt bigger. But then, in the morning, there was a knock. It was Leo, with 2 cups of tea and a muffin from the bakery downstairs. "Thought you might want a different view," he said, and he opened my curtains wide. That small act, him letting the light in, it felt like a promise. The routine started. Sarah and David took turns coming on weekends, their visits still a bit stiff. Margaret came once, crying, holding my hand too tight. She said she was a terrible friend. I didn't argue, but I patted her hand. What else was there to say? The real rhythm of my days was made by others. Arthur came after his walk in the park, always at 3. He'd make the tea now, because I couldn't stand at the stove. We'd sit and listen to the afternoon radio program. We didn't need to talk. Maya called every Tuesday, right on time. Her voice was my adventure, and Leo popped in most days, just for a minute, to drop off the mail or play a few bars of whatever he was working on. I started to see the shape of it, this new life. It was smaller, yes, but it wasn't empty. The people in it chose to be there. They weren't there because they had to be, because I was Mom or an old friend from decades ago. They were there because of a loaf of bread, a library form, a park bench. They were there because we'd chosen each other recently on purpose. And you know what? That felt solid. It felt real in a way the old fading connections didn't anymore. But I was still stuck in that bed, and the fear from the fall, that feeling of being utterly helpless on the floor, it lingered. It sat in my chest like a cold stone. What if I fell again? This little network was wonderful, but they couldn't be with me every second. The stone of fear got heavier as the days got shorter. I'd lie there at night, listening to the house creak, and I'd think, this is it. This is where I become a burden. This is where I truly disappear into being a problem to be solved. I didn't tell anyone that, not even Arthur. I just smiled when they visited and said I was getting stronger. But I wasn't sure I believed it. And then, one Tuesday, Maya didn't call. No email, no text, just silence. I waited by the phone all afternoon. Arthur came at 3, and he saw it on my face. "She's a busy kid, Eleanor," he said. "She'll call." But she didn't. Not that day or the next. The stone of fear in my chest turned into a sharp, cold dread. She was gone too. I'd been a project, and the project was over. I felt stupid. I'd let myself believe it was real. That Friday, Sarah came for the weekend. She was bustling around, cleaning things that were already clean. She found Maya's postcard of the redwood tree on the side table. "Who's this from?" she asked, sounding almost jealous. I told her about the Reading Partners program. Her face changed. It got this tight, pitying look. "Oh, Mom," she sighed. "You signed up for a charity service?" She said it like I'd admitted to eating from a dumpster. "You don't need to do that. We're your family. You just have to ask." I looked at her. I looked at this woman, my daughter, who I'd raised and loved, and who now visited me like it was a chore on a checklist. And it all just broke. The dam broke. "Ask," I said. My voice was quiet, but it shook. "Sarah, I did ask. I asked for months. I called. I left messages. You were always too busy. David was too busy. Margaret was too busy. I was alone in this house for so long, I started talking to the walls. So yes, I signed up for a charity service because a kind stranger's voice was better than the silence my own family left me with." She stared at me. Her mouth opened, then closed. She put the postcard down. "That's not fair," she whispered. "We have lives, kids, jobs. It's complicated." "It's not complicated," I said. I was crying now, and I hated it, but I couldn't stop. "It's simple. I needed you, and you weren't there. Harold was gone, and then I was gone too. You didn't even notice I was gone until I fell, and someone else had to call you." I wiped my face with my sleeve. That girl Maya, she didn't have to call. Leo didn't have to bring me groceries. Arthur doesn't have to sit with me, but they do. They choose to. You're my blood, and I had to become a charity case to remember what being chosen felt like. Sarah sat down hard on the foot of my rented bed. She didn't say anything for a long time. She just cried. I cried too. We cried for Harold, I think, and for all the lost time, for all the calls not made, the visits postponed, the slow fade we both allowed to happen. "I was scared," she finally said, her voice small. "After Dad died, I was scared to see you, scared to see that loneliness. It felt like looking at my own future, so I stayed away. It was easier. I'm so sorry, Mom. It was just easier. And there it was, the deepest cost. I hadn't just lost Harold. I'd lost my place in the world. I'd become a ghost, and then I'd become a frightening reflection. My own children were avoiding their future by avoiding me. That hurt more than the hip. That was the real breaking point. We sat in the awful, quiet truth of it, but a strange thing happened. Saying it out loud, hearing her say it back, it didn't make the hurt less, but it made the loneliness less. The silence between us wasn't empty anymore. It was full of something real, even if it was pain. She stayed the whole weekend, and we didn't just talk about safe things. We talked about Harold. We talked about her fear. We even laughed a little, a tired, watery laugh. It was a start. I knew things wouldn't magically fix, but the pretending was over. The disappearing act was over. I was here, in this bed, in this pain, and I was seen, really seen. And for the first time since I fell, the cold stone of fear in my chest began to feel just a little bit lighter. And for the first time since I fell, the cold stone of fear in my chest began to feel just a little bit lighter. It didn't vanish, mind you, but it shifted. And in that space, I started to understand a few things. I was wrong about how love works at the end. I thought love from your children, from old friends, was a constant, like gravity. You don't think about gravity holding you down. You just expect it to be there. But love isn't gravity. It's more like a garden Harold and I used to tend. If you don't water it, if you don't pull the weeds, it doesn't just stay the same. It withers. And I'd let my garden wither. I was so busy being Harold's caregiver, so lost in his dying, that I forgot to tend my own plot. I stopped inviting people in. I stopped saying, I need you. I just expected them to know, and when they didn't, I let the silence grow. That was my mistake. I disappeared, and then I blamed them for not seeing me. Here's what I learned, sitting in that rented hospital bed in my own living room. Love requires showing up, and showing up goes both ways. You have to show up for people, and you have to let them show up for you. For so long, I didn't want to be a burden. I wanted to be the strong one, the independent mother. That was pride, and it was poison. My pride built the walls of my quiet house. When Leo brought those groceries, it was because he saw a need. When I baked him the loaf, I was showing up too. That's the transaction that matters. Not money, but attention. A flicker of noticing someone else and letting them notice you back. So, if you're my age, if you're feeling that quiet creep in, don't make my mistake. Don't perform independence. Just be there. Be present in someone else's world, however small. It doesn't have to be your children. Your children have their own lives, their own fears. Like Sarah said, they're scared of our loneliness because it mirrors what might come for them. You can't force them to look, but you can look outward. Talk to the delivery person. Really talk. Nod to the neighbor, and next time, say their name. Ask the young man at the coffee shop about his music. Sign up for the silly-sounding program at the library. Sit on the bench and say, "The mallards miss my wife," or whatever your truth is that day. Send up your flare. It feels terrifying, I know. It feels like begging, but it's not. It's an invitation. And someone out there is desperate for an invitation too. You still have time. Maybe not years and years, but you have now. And now is enough to build something real. It won't be the crowded room of your 70th birthday. It will be smaller, quieter, a cup of tea with a neighbor, a weekly voice on the phone, a shared bench. But that small thing, it's a lifeline. It's the difference between an empty house and a home where someone might knock just to let the light in. That's the hope. It's not a grand sweeping change. It's the hope of a lemon loaf, of a postcard, of a voice saying, "I'll be there at 3. It's enough. It's more than enough. My story doesn't end with everything fixed. Sarah and I are talking more honestly, but it's fragile. David still forgets to call. Margaret and I are polite, but I have my patchwork quilt. Leo, Arthur, Maya. She did call back, by the way. Her midterms were a disaster, and she was embarrassed. I told her not to be. We all get lost sometimes. The point is, we found each other again. This is my life now. It's different. It's quieter than I ever imagined. But I am not alone. And if you've listened this far, you probably understand that quiet. Maybe you're living in it. So let me ask you this. Who is your Leo? Who is the person just out of sight, waiting for a nod to become something more? Think about it, and then tomorrow, do one small thing. Bake the loaf. Make the call. Sit on the bench. If this story meant something to you, if it echoed in your own quiet rooms, then do me a kindness. Help me send up a flare for others who might need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel. It's how you'll know when I share more stories like this, about Harold, about the roses, about learning to live a different life than you planned. Turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Give this video a like. It's a small way of saying, "I see you," to me and to everyone else watching who gets it. Most importantly, leave a comment below. Tell me, what was your moment? When did you feel yourself disappearing? And what was the small thing that brought you back?